Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 9th, 2021 meeting of the Penfield Planning Board. We'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We're just making comments up here. It's really nice to see a full auditorium. We're thinking about asking for everybody's cell phone number so we can send you out text messages to remind you to come to every meeting. Anyway, it's good that local government is back in action, right? Lori, please read the roll call.
Hetzke.
Hetzke here.
Bastian.
Bastian here.
Knauer.
Knauer here.
Burton.
Burton here.
Sangster.
Sangster here.
O'Connor.
O'Connor here.
Weissar.
Weissar here.
Dubreck. Dubreck here. Gray here.
Okay, and welcome, Catherine, our new junior planner. Welcome to Penfield, and good luck. All right, we have minutes from the August 12th meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them, and maybe we can entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded.
Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian.
Bastian, aye.
Burton.
Burton, aye.
Knauer.
Knauer, aye.
Okay. Doug, you want to start going through our agenda, tabled items and so forth?
Yeah, so we'll go through our tabled items. I think we'll actually start with tabled application number 3. That is 1851 Clark Road. So at our last meeting on August 12th, the board had tabled that application because it did require an area variance. They did go before the zoning board on 8/19 and their variance was approved. That said, we do have a draft approval resolution for your review, and if you're comfortable.
Yep. That was really, from what I recall, the only thing that we were really waiting for was the zoning board to rule on that. So
That's correct.
I know it's Terry's application, but since he's not here, somebody like to move to approve. We did do the EAF on the 12th, so that should be all taken care of.
Yep, move to approve the application.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian.
Bastian, aye.
Burton.
Burton, aye.
Knauer.
Knauer, aye.
Okay.
All right, the second application, 1492 Sweets Corners Road, was the 2-lot subdivision. The board tabled this on 8/12 because it also required an area variance. It did go to the zoning board on 8/19. The zoning board reviewed it, and they had concerns with the substantial nature of the variance. And as such, they drafted a letter to the planning board, which was provided to you in your drop, asking for your input on the variance. Since that meeting, the applicant has resubmitted new maps. They have increased the size of the homestead lot from 2.65 acres to 3.15 acres, an increase of about half an acre, which does reduce the necessary variance. If you recall, they are required to have 4.96 acres per code based on the size of the accessory structure.
As I recall, the original one was about 2 acres, and it was increased to 3.2.
2.65 increased to 3.15.
And this is essentially I guess what we would call a self-created hardship.
That's correct.
Any discussion from the board on this?
Was the original parcel 35 plus minus?
Yeah, it's about 35 acres in total. Yeah, it's 35.69 acres as it currently sits.
35.6.
I understand the impetus for not wanting to lose another potential development lot. If the zoning board's,
Make sure you speak in the mic.
if everybody can hear me, if the zoning board's tolerance was that they might consider a grant with a less substantial ask on the area variance, I'm happy to send this back to the zoning board if you guys agree.
In terms of, do you think, is your opinion that the modification is substantial enough or not substantial enough?
Well, I think the way that the zoning board is looking at it is whether or not the, rather than an increase being substantial, whether or not there's a de minimis amount of area that they're requesting that they would feel comfortable granting the variance, right? So, another way of putting it, I guess, but
Yeah.
I do. I'm comfortable with what they're doing. It's, I mean, it's a matter of semantics, the way that the town code is written. So if the zoning board's willing to grant them with the change in the area of the existing lot, then I'm good with that.
Okay, Bill?
I too would send it back to the zoning board. As we've stated before, it's self-imposed. They don't want to meet the zoning standards, and I understand why, but I think it's premature for us. I think we need to send it back to the zoning board and let them make that decision.
Well, they're seeking from us an opinion on whether we are in support of the variance or not. So
That is correct. That is what
Essentially.
they asked, yep. Is they want the board's opinion on whether they should grant the variance, whether you guys support the variance as requested.
Right, right. So that's the question. What are your thoughts?
I still think with the increase is, yeah, half an acre, but it's still only roughly 60% of what zoning says. So in my opinion, I think it's a little light.
Okay. I agree with you, Bob. I think that the request for variance is completely self-created, and we have zoning codes for a reason. And if we want to change the zoning codes, then that's one thing. It's not up to us. But I personally think that it's more substantial than it needs to be. So I don't know how we proceed from here. We have 4 people, and we might have a 2-2.
I'm with you and Bob on this. I think it's, like you said, we have a zoning for a reason. And there's no reason they can't increase the lot size.
Yeah, I mean, it's 35 acres now. Instead of ending up with a 33-acre parcel, they end up with a 30-acre parcel, I guess, if they met zoning. Would that be right, essentially?
Yeah, they'd go from, if they needed 4.96, roughly 5 at 5.69 acres, to meet zoning, they'd be at about 30 and a half acres for the remaining parcel.
I guess it is what it is. So is that?
So I think we'd be
Essentially-
looking to take a vote just to continue table the application and to send a letter to the zoning board, not in support of the variance, it sounds like.
Or that substantial variance?
Or that it's, or that substantial of a variance.
Yeah, all right. So would you?
Yeah, I'll move to send a letter as we discussed to the zoning board.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian,
Bastian, aye.
Burton,
Burton, nay.
Canower.
Canower, aye.
And then
Okay.
since we can't do anything, we can't make a motion on it until the zoning
So
board
it's
has
tabled
acted, so it'll be
until
tabled
it comes
until
back again.
our next meeting.
Okay.
All right, our last tabled application is 1801 and 1787 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road, known as the Pathstone Mixed Use Development. Since our last meeting, or just prior to our last meeting, we had received both feedback from our traffic consultant at Barton LaJudas, as well as the New York State DOT, with their comments on the traffic impact statement that was provided. Since then, staff and the applicant have met with the DOT to discuss some of the concerns that State DOT had, because they were not in favor of curb cut along Route 250, and they wanted all traffic to come out at the signalized intersection. You know, we did remind them that at this point, the applicant does not have legal access to what is currently known as Penfield Square Road, because that has not been dedicated to the town as a public right-of-way. It is still a private right-of-way. In addition, staff met with the applicant to go over architecture along with our architectural.
Can we pause and talk about the curb cut for a second? You have, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. You met with the DOT, right? What was a?
I
can you
did.
give us a synopsis? Are they on board now? Are they willing
So
to?
after the DOT was aware of the applicant not having access basically from the YMCA road as of yet, they're in agreement that they can look at providing a curb cut for the Pathstone development, and basically over the existing, well, actually, they wanted to move it a little further south from Sweets Corners Road to create some of a
bigger distance?
but they are willing to allow for a right in, right out, and a left in at this time.
Okay.
So, and it was kind of left as if there is any possible future development to the north of the property, and able to provide a signal at Sweets Corners Road that the entrance would be relocated to make it a full intersection.
Okay.
That would allow left in, left out.
So that
right
would be
in.
something that we'd have to put into a resolution.
Right.
That would require that.
Right. And hopefully the
Future
applicant
action,
can work
I guess.
with also the YMCA and or the town to, dedicate the road from, the YMCA and the Penfield Square project, so that access would be allowed that way as well. Because there is a building fire code that requires anything over 200 units to have double access. So with this being 132 and the other Penfield Square being 186, I believe, they would put it over the threshold where this whole area would need at least 2 points of access.
Okay. And they understand that now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Didn't mean to
Sorry.
I have a question.
break your stride.
Mike, you said that they would have a full intersection at Sweets Corners?
Well, that's if there's any future development to the north, because right now this application doesn't own property right up to
That was my question.
Yeah, so if that ever comes to fruition, then, the DOT would look at relocating that existing curb cut and providing it right across from Sweets Corners
Okay.
Road.
So they would allow the curb cut now, and then
Correct.
down the road, and the parcel to the north is developed, they would make that a full intersection? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and this curb cut would go away, become essentially access through that intersection.
Okay.
Okay. Staff also met with the applicant to discuss architecture. We had received the architectural review comments from our consultant. And the consultant expressed some concerns with the architectural style, specifically that he did not believe it reflected the historical nature of Penfield or the area. So we did work through some of those concerns with the applicant. Staff has just recently sent out a PRC memo to the applicant addressing our most recent concerns on that set of plans. The applicant has stated they don't see any significant concerns with our requests. With that, if the board is comfortable, we do have sort of our site plan checklist. If the board is comfortable moving forward.
I'd like to start down that, but I'd like to just get some feedback from you guys about Chris Lopez's memo, anything that's, my recollection from our initial review of the architecture, everybody was in general pleased with the style and architecture that they proposed, and his memo was a little bit contrary to that. I think that there are some good points, the street level emphasis and canopies to create the human scale, that type of thing. Would be good to incorporate more, but I'd like to get your opinions on what your reaction to the memo was. I don't know who wants to start.
Bill?
I'm happy with the presentation we saw a couple months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mike?
Sorry. I'm okay with the existing architectural.
Okay.
So,
Jim?
Yeah, I am too, but I don't disagree with Chris. I mean, those provisions are in the manual for a reason. And this is something that Chris has consistently rendered an opinion about through the 4 mixed-use developments that we've looked at so far. So I don't think we stop that process. I think he's doing a great job of
Absolutely.
keeping all of the applicants on the same path in that respect, and I think we should follow his recommendation, or ask the applicant to follow his recommendation.
And I guess to what degree would be, because you could read this as an extremely substantial change has to happen.
Well, I would leave that up to the designer. Let her take a look at Chris's comments and see how she can incorporate some of the things that Chris thought might, lend some historical flavor from that area of the town, and see what she comes up with. I don't think we dictate to them how to achieve those goals.
Okay? Bob?
Yeah, from what I remember, and I know back when we reviewed the original design, I believe the building closer to the road incorporated a flat roof, and the building to
The west?
the west was more of like a gabled roof.
Right.
And I know a gabled roof maybe fits in more with what you might think typical buildings in Penfield would be like. But on the other hand, I think we acknowledged that it was a little bit different building. And in fact, there's another project that does incorporate some flat roof, architecture. So I think, getting back to, the points that were made with Chris's comments, again, I think the architect should just review that and make modifications as they think, and maybe there's a middle ground there.
Okay,
That's my thoughts.
okay.
Okay, we can certainly make a recommendation on that. Was there any specific architectural element or recommendation of Chris's that you guys found to be the most substantial or one that the applicant should focus on?
Well, for me, I think this being Zone A for mixed use, the Zone A areas have the highest concentration of commercial uses. And it's almost, if this district is going to be a new little like city center or community, we want it to feel like that. And and we're also trying to focus on pedestrian scale, people walking from place to place versus driving from place to place. And we want it to be inviting. So, and not just for the people who live there or work there, but for the entire community. And so the street level emphasis to me and the canopies and bringing in elements as much as possible to enhance that, to me is important. Everybody else can comment on what they feel is the most important too.
Yeah, I think that corridor connecting, and there's some more features now that have been added to that, which is, very positive with a little bit more character instead of just an open area. That's a good to see that revision on the last, revisions.
Any other comments from,
I don't have anything specific. I'd just like to see how she responds to the
Okay.
review letter, see what she comes up with.
okay,
Okay.
next on this?
Talking about the layout, is the board comfortable with the building placement and how the buildings are laid out on the site?
You may find some changes to that as a result of their response to plans review comments.
Okay. All right, having reviewed the parking, since the original iteration, they have broken up the parking. One of the original comments when we first saw the application back in July was that the one large parking lot felt a little too much like a shopping center. They have made inroads dividing up the parking into multiple sort of parking areas with larger green spaces in between. Is the board comfortable with the parking as it's currently laid out? Knowing that it may have to change a little bit, especially if the DOT does require the curb cut to move further south, that it may alter sort of the vehicular circulation of the
Well, and
site.
the location of that commercial building in the northeast corner of the property.
Yeah, it may require moving that building or shifting that building to an alternative location.
Which may result in a reconfiguration of parking. So,
Yeah.
but their last presentation, I thought they did a very nice job of graphically showing how they responded to the comments from the previous meeting. They did pretty much what we asked them to do. I get a little concerned with a whole bunch of little medians that have grassed areas because the salt ruins the grass, and they're hard to maintain and keep green and looking nice. So, there's got to be a blend there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, given the comments regarding the architecture and the architectural consultant's memo, do you guys want to or feel comfortable tabling the application to see how they respond both to the comments from the DOT meeting, the latest PRC memo, and sort of those three big items.
That makes sense,
Makes
too.
sense, yeah.
All right. Whose is this?
Bill?
It's mine.
Want to move to table?
Move the table.
I'll second.
Okay, we got moved and seconded.
Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian,
Bastian, aye.
Burton,
Burton, aye.
Canower.
Canower, aye.
Okay. So
All right. And then
table items.
we do, yep, that is it for our tabled items. We do have one action item. At our last meeting, the board issued a denial resolution for the project known as Penfield Heights. Since that meeting, we have been in contact with the applicant's engineers and attorney, and they have provided responses to the denial resolution, as well as a smaller set of revised plans. It is their hope, based on our denial resolution, there is specifically in our code restrictions on resubmission of applications and timelines for that. In our denial resolution, the board did invite the applicant to resubmit if they found that they could overcome the issues that were addressed within the denial resolution. So they have resubmitted something for the board's consideration, just to see how the board feels about some changes prior to resubmitting an application. The most significant changes of note is the fact that Building A, one of the 10-unit townhouses, has been converted to a two-story retail building. The retail building at the corner was reduced from 3 stories to 2 stories to match. The building heights on Building C and D had been reduced. They show them as being reduced substantially to mostly meeting our 55-foot height requirement, except for a single eave on Building D that would remain 71 feet in the front, 60 in the back, just in one very specific area. Additionally, 2 sections of what were non-ADA compliant sidewalks, both at the entrance off of 250, as well as between the common house and the rear trail system around the pond facility, will be made compliant to ADA standards.
So, again, I'd like to hear from my fellow board members. We only have a couple minutes before I want to get the public hearing started for tonight's public hearings. But I think that they're making progress toward it. Is it 100% there? I'd say no. But it's toward moving in the right direction. Not sure how everybody else feels about that. If the specific question, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that we're all open to having a new application come in without some sort of arbitrary time frame, a year or 90 days or whatever put on it. The denial was not that. It wasn't, come in tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it had nothing to do with putting a time frame on it. It doesn't meet these factors of what we're looking to do, and we want to get there. So I'd like to work with them to do that. Other comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that very well thought out responses to all of those issues. But getting that kind of a complex response on a Friday afternoon in advance of a holiday weekend, and one of our members is unable to be here tonight, I don't think there's sufficient time for this board to adequately review all of those things and to be able to discuss them, to give the applicant the thoughtful kind of response back that they deserve. So I'm not prepared to talk about the specifics of what they offered and the merits of whether or not it meets the direction that we were going or not. It's just awful lot to take in a very small amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have an issue with the applicant resubmitting, again, with no, extended time frame or anything, with those changes, so we can look at this project again and pick that up.
Okay. Bill?
I was not able to do a thorough review. I did a cursory review, and I'm with the rest of the team here that I don't want to shut them out. I think they're moving in the right direction. But to say they can't come back for another year or whatever typical time frame is, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, right. It's not fair.
If they're ready to resubmit, I think we should let them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need us to, Pete, are we good with that?
Well, it's kind of challenging because you don't know what the new application is going to be, but it sounds like you do have, you would be inclined to consider an application were it to be submitted in less than a year, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So does that give you what you need, I think? Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're maybe 3 minutes behind schedule. But the good news is we got our work session. Nothing else in the work session, right?
Nothing else on the work session.
Okay. So we'll move on to the public hearing portion of the meeting. You will have to cut us a little bit of slack. This is a little bit new format, if you will. We have 2 applications this evening, and the way our process works, and again, this is, the overall process is the same, but the logistics and housekeeping issues here have changed, and I don't know about you guys, but it's thrown me off a little bit, especially with the work sessions. So
I like it, though.
we invite the applicants up to, do you guys want them at the left-hand table? Okay, so this table here, and present your project. The board will ask our questions of you, the applicant, and then we'll open it up for public participation. And both local participation, people here, as well as, I believe, you can call in on the phone or send in a message online, email. If you want to call, the phone number is 340-8771, and the control center downstairs will put you in the queue to make your comments, and we welcome in-person participation again. So if and when you're invited up to speak, if you go to that table and direct your comments to the board, not to the applicant, and everything should go swimmingly that way. So Doug, would you like to read the first application?
All right. BME Associates, 10 Liftbridge Lane East, Fairport, New York, 14450, on behalf of Highland Builders, requests under Chapter 250, Article 12-12.2, and Article 11-11.2 of the Code of the Town of Penfield for preliminary and final site plan and subdivision approval for the proposed 17-lot subdivision with associated site improvements on 48.08 acres located at 2735 and 2745 Penfield Road. The properties are now or formerly owned by Joseph DePrima and Highland Builders and zoned rural agricultural RA2. Application number 21P-0024, SBL numbers 141.01-1-18.21 and 141.01-1-18.22.
Okay, so who from BME is talking about this? All right, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Fred Shelley from BME Associates. I'm also joined by Dustin McLeod of Highland Builders and Construction, the project applicant and the site owner. They'll also be developing the site as well. The application is requesting preliminary and final approval for the submitted 17-lot subdivision. It's a residential, single-family subdivision, and as stated previously, it's within the town's RA2 single-family zoning district. The current proposal also, as indicated, includes roughly 48 acres of land on two separate parcels, 2735 and 2745 Penfield Road. It is located on the south side of Penfield Road, New York State Route 441, and it's between Gloria Drive and Jomanda Drive is just at the northeast corner of the site. The project includes a re-subdivision of the existing home parcel, which will result in approximately 8 acres. The remaining 16 parcels will comply with the town zoning ordinance, and they will the development will include the extension or construction and dedication of a proposed public roadway. Also includes the extension of a public water main, construction of a stormwater management facility to be located at the northwest corner of the property. The stormwater management facility has been designed per the DEC standards and requirements to control the peak site runoff rates as well as provide water quality for the areas that it's receiving. The individual parcel development will also include installation of individual private wastewater treatment systems, as well as stormwater management controls. It's a dry swale practice to provide green infrastructure practices and runoff reduction volumes for the site. The project is currently proposed as a two-phased project, which would include the installation of approximately 1,000 feet of public roadway, public water main, the construction of the stormwater management facility, as well as the development of lots 1, 2, 3, 15, 16, and then the re-subdivision of the existing home parcel. The existing home parcel, there is a footprint provided of the existing septic system near the turnaround, and that will not be reduced or conflict with any setback requirements for that. As a result of the development, the existing home, which is currently on a well, will be provided with public water services as well. The project has been submitted to and is undergoing agency review between the Monroe County Department of Public Health for subdivision, wastewater treatment systems, and water main extension. It's been submitted to the Monroe County Water Authority for the water main extension. The New York State DOT will be reviewing it for a utility permit for the water main connection and also the access for the proposed roadway. And then the site will require New York State DEC stormwater permit coverage as part of the development because we are disturbing over 5 acres of land for single-family homes. Per the seeker regulations, the project is considered a type 1 action, and we would request that the planning board consider declaring themselves as lead agent for the coordinated review. We have, as I said, submitted to the agencies listed or discussed earlier, and we're beginning to get some of those comments back from them, and we've also received PRC comments from the town, and we'll begin addressing those with future submissions. And with that, I'd welcome any questions from the board, or if Dustin wants to add anything, he's...
Thank you. Not at all.
Thank
All
you.
right.
So let's start with the perk tests.
Yes.
Did they all perk?
We were able to obtain acceptable perk tests for the systems that we've designed. There are a couple of different systems proposed. I believe there are a few standard conventional systems, and then there will be some modified raised systems included with this.
Okay.
So that they are shallow, but yeah.
Okay. Some of those leach fields are fairly close to interior lot lines, and if they end up with a raised bed, you got some potential discharge there. So, and I also wonder, looking at these systems, there are different sizes in there. So are you telling the builder that, you know, you can only have a 3-bedroom here or a 2-bedroom here, or how did you design these systems without knowing what they're going to build?
Sure. So thank you very much. Each of those systems are designed for a 3-bedroom home. And then they're designed based on the absorption rate of the underlying soil. So that's why you'll see some different sizes of the system. Some of them had a slower perk, some of them were a faster. So not quite a cookie cutter design for the septic design on that, but again, that it is going through the Monroe County Health Department for their review on that.
Okay. And I saw your comment on the issue with the pond that's encroaching on the neighboring property, and I understand that the owners have agreed to infill that and enter into an agreement with the adjacent property owner. Has that work been completed, or?
The work has not been completed yet, but we'll continue to coordinate with the adjoining owners, yeah.
Something that you anticipate having in place before this board would be asked to issue a final approval, or?
I think probably what we would look for is to request from the owner of the adjacent parcel, set up an agreement with them, and then it would be pending final approval of the plans, yes.
Okay.
And then the work would be completed.
Okay. So I didn't see any width specified on the driveways for all the lots, but I did note that lots 10 and 11, those driveways are over 300 feet, so they're required, those driveways are required to be 12 feet, the other ones aren't. But I think just to make sure that they get built that way, that the final site plans need to indicate that those longer driveways are a minimum of 12 feet for their entire length.
Understood. Yep, we can include those.
So that's all I have.
Okay. The stormwater facility in the northwest corner, is it retention or detention? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The stormwater facility in the northwest corner will it will retain a certain volume of water below a normal water elevation. And then during certain storm events, it's a retention and detention pond. So it will hold some that provides the wet water quality volume. And then also above that water surface elevation will provide the detention.
So when you say it will retain a certain amount of water, will that be in appearance like an open water pond or lake, or will it look like a wetland?
No, it's designed as an open water pond, yeah.
Approximately how deep?
Between 4 to 6 feet deep.
Okay. And it's there because it's the lowest part of the property?
That's correct, yeah.
The driveway for the neighbor gets redirected onto the dedicated road?
That's correct, yes.
What's our maximum cul-de-sac length? I thought it was 800 feet. Is it longer than that?
I
Without a
believe it was
variance?
1,100.
1,100? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know why I had 800 in my brain, but, so you're good. Any other variances that any variances that you require?
No, actually, one PRC comment came up, I believe it was for lot 16, which we'll need to adjust that house location to conform to the setback there, but we don't have an issue with relocating that home. We'll pull it to the east slightly. So we have room between the septic system and the house.
Okay. One follow-up on the perk tests. You mentioned 3-bedroom homes. These are going to be decent-sized lots. What if somebody wants a 5-bedroom or a 4-bedroom?
If their design exceeds, or if their home exceeds that design, then a modified septic system design would need to be submitted to the health department.
So the lots will support that?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. Other members of the board?
Yeah, I had one question for Lot 12 and 10. Do you know the distance from the house pads to the fire hydrants?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay, and will that exceed 400 feet?
There's a hydrant right there.
Yeah, there's a hydrant right at the end. I'd have to scale that, but
I already checked that. There's a hydrant right there on the cul-de-sac.
Okay, and as long as the house is closer than 400, otherwise the houses would have to be sprinklered.
understood.
Okay. That's it.
Bill, anything?
I'm all set.
Okay. At this point in time, I'd like to open up the discussion to anybody in the audience that might have a comment about this application. Would anybody like to speak?
AJ, we have 2.
Oh, good, great.
Mary Wagner. Yep. I have you at 742 Furman Road.
Yes, I'm an owner of the property that backs up to this property that they're talking about here.
Okay.
Is it okay if I take this?
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry.
As far as I'm concerned, you're good.
Okay. Just concerns about this being an agricultural district and it's been that for a long time. The town of Penfield and the state of New York spent a lot of money right across Penfield Road preserving agricultural land in this neighborhood. This is a connecting body to preserved land that's in the town of Parrington. Our land is preserved under those conservation easements and the ones that the state has provided. We're still an active farm. We have animals. We spread manure on the property. We've already dealt with 2 subdivisions backing up to our properties on other sides in Parrington. We've had issues with trespassing, motorbikes, bicycles, dogs walking, all kinds of things encroaching on the property. And again, we see this as another potential for that, with our properties. Issues with new homeowners complaining because of smells, because of, activity at hours. Farming takes whatever hours we can get that the weather agrees with us, so.
Right, so you have the people that buy a great house that's out in a pristine country setting, and then they're not
With 5
happy
acres of
with
lawn,
the
and
actual-
that's another thing that they don't think about is that we listen to lawnmowers 24/7 just about in our neighborhood now because we have the Furman Heights that bumps up to this property also up there. Those properties are all 5-acre pluses and they have constant lawn mowing and activities going on as well. And that, and this just looks like more of that kind of thing with the large property sizes here and that. But I think the major concern is that to be able to continue to farm, we're already having a difficult time with things like deer and animals and that. They're getting crunched into smaller and smaller spaces and that, we have a lot of deer damage on our property with our current crops that we're trying to grow and that. And again, we're going to now continue to push those into smaller and smaller spaces and that, we have some wooded area that bumps up to this property that's our own. We are allowed to allow hunting in there, but again, now it seems like that's not going to be possible, if more houses are there and that, it's would make that a dangerous thing. And last thing we want is somebody to get hurt over this. But, for us, it's a kind of a critical thing is that we have people to come in and bow hunt and gun hunt because it is property back there there's no one right close to it, for us to be able to, at least try to get some of the deer population down and that. So several of the concerns, that we have, again, it's another one of those, it kind of doesn't feel right, putting more houses in the middle of protected agricultural lands, and that, especially if we've spent a lot of money as communities, because that's, eventually it's all people's dollars that went into putting those conservation things out there. And then we're going to put houses, another track in the middle of that. I think that's pretty much
Okay.
all I have in that, but those are just our concerns.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Lori?
Brian Jones, 4 Jomanda Way.
Hi. Yeah, there's just a few concerns that I wanted to bring up. First of all, I mean, this is a dedicated historic district where this is. There are houses right next to where this property would be that is on the historic, well, actually, and across the street, that are on the historic registry. And the other thing, there's other concerns besides that. I don't know if anything's been done as far as a traffic study, but on Jomanda Way, depending on what time of the day it is, we already have more and more problems just getting out onto 441. Sometimes you sit there 5 minutes just to pull out. This is going to bring a lot more traffic to the area. So that's also a concern. And also the safety, safety with more traffic and people taking a chance and just jetting out there whenever you get a little break. So I'm concerned about that. The other thing, I was looking at this is the first time I saw the map, and there are some wetlands there, and I don't see those on that map at all. I believe site number 1 there are wetlands that were always there, and they were supposed to be protected wetlands, so I don't even see that on the map. I don't know if has anybody looked into that? There was quite a big area there that was always swampy and very wet.
Well, it's certainly something that will be considered and taken a look at. If there are federal or state wetlands, obviously you can't develop in those areas.
Yeah, now I know that some excavating has been done over there, and I don't know if they tried to do something that already got rid of some of those wetlands, but there were wetlands there that were supposed to stay there. So, yeah, that's something to look into.
Okay.
Make you aware of that. Let's see. Yeah, the other thing is this would be by far the largest development, as far, I guess, the largest and most condensed development right off of 441. So again, that would bring a lot more traffic. And on Jomanda Way, I did some quick math while I was sitting here. I think we have about 58 acres or 60 acres, I'm not sure. And there's only 8 houses on there. So everybody there has a minimum of 5 acres or more. Some are 10 acres, one's 16 acres. So this seems a very condensed development. If they are, I know it's only required to be 2 acres, but it's a little out. It would be very out of character for the area for sure. And Mary, I believe, that was just up here. Did I get your name right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, she brought up a good point too about the wildlife. We do have a lot of deer in the area, and so that I am a hunter. I mean, not that has anything to do with this development, but there is less and less area for the deer, and there are. I mean, when I go out every year, there seems to be more and more deer out there that I see when I go hunting. So I can attest to that for sure. Anyway, I think those are the main things that I want to bring up. The traffic, make sure you do a really good study on that. Consider the fact that it is a historic district with a lot of houses that are on the National Historic list on there. And the wetlands, like I brought up. So I think those are the main concerns I have about this. I think, again, it'd be very out of character, this many houses on, we have about 58 acres, and we have 8 houses. This is 17 houses on 48 acres. So it's quite a big, quite a lot more condensed, so.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
That's
Any
it.
more?
No.
Okay. Would anyone else, we'll open it up to anybody else in the audience that would like to comment on this application? Okay, let me just check online to see if we have anybody either on the phone or writing things in, and it looks like we do not. So thank you, everyone, for your comments. And any other comments from the board?
No?
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll be tabling this tonight, so.
All right, thank you.
Doug, would you please read the next item?
All right, application number 2, BME Associates, 10 Lithbridge Lane East, Fairport, New York, 14450, on behalf of Shadow Lake Paddle and Golf Club. Requests under Chapter 250, Article 12-12.2, and Article 13-13.2 of the Code of the Town of Penfield for preliminary and final site plan approval and modification of a conditional use permit for the construction of an additional paddle tennis court between the existing courts on 198.63 acres located at 1850 5 Mile Line Road. The properties are now or formerly owned by Shadow Lake Golf Club and zoned R120 residential single family. Application number 21P-0027, SBL number 124.01-2-45.11.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Fritz Odenbach, the owner of Shadow Lake, and we're here simply just to see if we can get a approval for another platform tennis court. We currently have 5 courts now, and with COVID and the growth of the game, there's been a real demand for more. And we've had originally 2 courts we put in 1978. Then over the 80s and 90s, we added 3 more. And now it's, so we're looking just to, where we used to have the tennis courts, we took those out. Then we put volleyball, and then now this game has superseded it all, and we want to keep it growing. So that's what we're trying to do. And the courts are, as you know, are 30 by 60, and really a pervious surface because there's 50 aluminum planks with 1/4 inch between all of them. And so when it rains, it goes right through like it's not even there. So it's not like a tennis court where it's solid asphalt or concrete.
Okay.
So it's pretty much about it.
So you're not getting any requests for pickleball?
A ton.
Are you?
A ton. And I'll be honest with you, I play pickleball. It's great that you get so many people out. The noise driving into Shadow Lake when there's golfers and it's quiet, it's really a pleasant sound driving in there, and to hear that wiffle ball and 8 courts going, I think it would drive me crazy. And there's so many facilities that offer free pickleball. And we have, on one of our tennis courts, we have a court, but it's tough to compete against free, so.
Yes.
So this game is a little unique.
That's a unique facility for sure.
Yeah. And the lighting, there's 6 lights on each court currently now. And they're what they call a shoebox light, or kind of like a pancake where it just shines straight down on the court. 200 watt, and there's 6 per court. So increased lighting shouldn't be a factor, especially that far off the road.
You don't have any neighbors over there, so.
No.
Bill?
In the past, it's been a tennis court and a sand volleyball court?
Yes.
Okay. I see no issue. I have no more questions.
There's, the 5 courts right now are currently face east-west
Yeah, and
in the
this
paddle, as you see. We couldn't go too much farther because There's a lot of bad golfers like me out there, and they end up on the court, so we had to kind of put it in perpendicular to the other ones.
Okay.
And it's a great location because you can go off the back of the deck of the warming hut too and get right on the court, so.
Is that the frame building I see, the warming hut?
Yep.
Okay. And these courts will be open year-round?
Year-round, the season goes pretty much from October 1st to April 1st. We play in the wintertime. Courts are elevated, there's propane heaters underneath.
Okay, I was going to ask
Yeah.
about that. Okay.
Yeah, we look pretty silly out there sometimes, yeah. So,
Do you have any concerns about with people getting more healthy, they'll be living too long and we'll have too much population?
wow. I don't think I had an answer for that.
Oh, I had to think of something to say.
Yeah.
So that's not one of your concerns?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anything?
I have no questions. It looks good.
Thank you.
All right, Fritz, I don't have any actual questions
Okay,
on
it's
this.
not
So
a very
pretty
complicated project, so,
straightforward.
but.
Yeah. Thank you. What I will do, though, is open it up for anybody in the audience if they'd like to speak about this application. Okay, nobody here. Let me see if anybody has submitted any written correspondence or is on the phone. No, it doesn't look like it. So,
Okay. Thank you for a couple
seems
months
like
ago
a
for
fairly
our.
non-controversial.
Yeah, I know, it was pretty easy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Thank
For
you.
the approval on our sign, too. That turned out really nice.
That wasn't
Couple
us,
months
but you're welcome.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't. Thanks anyhow.
Thanks. Okay, so with that, we will end our public hearing portion of the evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And we'll just finish up our business. Have a good night. Doug, why don't we go in backwards order, and we'll start with the courts. Okay. We have a draft approval, I believe. Is
Yep,
there
we
any
have-
staff deal breakers here?
No.
No?
We have a Part 2 EAF and draft approval resolution. It was provided in your drop. It was a pretty simple application.
Yeah.
Move to approve the Part 2 EAS.
I'll second.
Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian,
Bastian, aye.
Burton,
Burton, aye.
Canower.
Canower, aye.
All right.
Move to approve the application.
I'll second.
Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian,
Bastian, aye.
Burton,
Burton, aye.
Canower.
Canower, aye.
Okay. Have at it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
See ya.
Okay, how about the subdivision?
All right, 2745 Penfield Road. So as they stated, it is a type 1 action. We have sent out lead agency letters responding specifically to one of the resident comments that we did receive. The property directly to the west, although there is another lot that sort of does sit in between a portion of it. 2701 is on the National Register of Historic Places. Further down the road, I think it's 2780, but I don't, 2780 is not on the National Register, but is considered a local landmark. As such, as part of our type 1, we did send, as an interested agency, a letter to SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office. We have received 2 responses back, one from their cultural resources, stating that they had no concern. They did not feel that this application would impact the National Registered Historic Place at 2701 Penfield Road. We did, however, receive information from their archaeological division that has requested a Phase 1 archaeological survey to be conducted on the site. Prior to them rendering a decision regarding lead agency. So we are currently working with the applicant on following up both with SHPO and that. In our staff's research, we did not pull it up as being within an archaeologically sensitive area. So the only thing we can see is that, you know, the state did a survey when they did their 441 realignment project, that may have triggered it on SHPO's side.
Maybe we
But-
should give them lead agency. Anyway, keep talking.
So we are still waiting on that. We're working with the applicant to get SHPO the information they need so that they will provide a letter back to the planning board on that. We did send out agricultural data statements, and the town of Perrington was notified because this property does abut the town of Perrington, town of Penfield border. And we did send off a PRC memo on September 7th, so just a couple days ago, with staff's concerns.
Okay. Any other comments from tonight's meeting that we
I-
should address or have addressed in a tabling resolution?
Tonight seemed to be one of those moments where I felt almost compelled to tell the audience that, you know, the applicant is entitled, that this is a permitted use, that they're entitled to develop this property, you know. And so many times when neighbors come in with very valid concerns, but the concerns really should have been addressed when the town underwent a rezoning process, because, you know, that was their opportunity to speak about the impact of density and uses and you know, things like, you know, being adjacent to, you know, active agricultural land and the wildlife and so forth. And I can tell you from where I live that the deer have really, really ramped up. And we talk about it a lot, people that live around us. And it seems to me that one of the state agencies has a deer management program, and it seems, I seem to want to say that Agriculture and Markets has one, because they work very hard to protect active farmland and crop production. So I'm just wondering out loud if maybe the town would have a resource that they could share with the people that have the active farm.
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of nice. And also that when you, you know, go to send, you know, a letter out to the applicant, you know, we should specifically mention, you know, the wetlands and ask them to, you know, produce a wetlands map and talk about the traffic and the line of sight to the curb cut.
So there are no mapped wetlands on there.
There are no mapped wetlands. The only thing that it has on the property is a stream buffer, 75-foot stream buffer.
So,
Okay.
as you well know, though, there might not be any mapped wetlands, but that doesn't mean that there aren't wetlands present on the
But it would be
property.
probably isolated, so it would be,
Right, but at least we took the time and a little bit of effort to address the neighbors' concerns and ask the applicant
I agree.
to provide a written response. I mean, that's only fair to the people that are being impacted by this.
And that's certainly something we can do, is to ask them. I know they have wetland specialists there, to either provide a letter stating that they did a delineation and did not find any wetlands, or if they do, to note them on the plans and whether they're isolated. And
You know, there's also that neat little wetlands brochure that the DEC puts out. So maybe you make that available to this gentleman that came up and talked, so that he has a better understanding of what a true wetland area is.
but the current homeowner also did do a lot of work down there, so to me, he's already disturbed whatever wetlands there was.
May have. He may be very right about that, but
And he's done that without necessarily town approval.
without permit, yep, I get it. But, you know, my only reason for mentioning it is because, you know, we invite these people to come up and comment, and oftentimes they have some really valid
Absolutely.
things, and rather than just say thank you for your comments, it would be nice if we could maybe do a little something proactive to
Educate them and.
educate them and
Let them know
let them
what-
know that there's real merit to their,
Right.
to their comments.
Right. I think that makes sense.
Was it about 10 years ago, maybe? I think it's on what's today the Brocolo landscape business that's immediately to the east, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that where they proposed the tubing hill? Snow
The
tubing?
previous owners of that property, it was out back, behind that property.
Behind the Brocolo property.
Brocolo's, but it was land that they owned because that
Right.
property goes way back.
Yeah. And if you recall, the turnout for that application filled the auditorium.
Yes.
I'm surprised there were only 2 neighbors that spoke out about this.
Yeah, I think with the tubing thing, it was an evening noise issue as well as lighting.
Well, a
Oh,
commercial
you also,
business.
you get a lot of cars for things like that,
Yeah.
in different times
Yeah.
of the year. This, I mean, I get traffic. Traffic is a headache at times, but it's only 17 lots.
Yeah. I mean, for the
It's not going to
tubing,
be all at once.
No,
for the tubing, I think New York State came in and said they would have to add a turn lane on 441. I think that killed the project. Because that was very
Just-
expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any comments?
No.
Okay. Anything else from staff we need to address on this?
No, I'll say we do have information for hunters. We do issue hunting permits. The DEC has the town clerk issue hunting permits. We do have specific provisions. We have had farmers who are not within areas where discharge of firearms are allowed to get special permits to do hunting on their agricultural properties. Out here in this section of town, hunting is allowed as long as you meet all of the state requirements for distance and size of land and things like that. We can table the application pending submission of any information regarding wetlands, traffic
agency.
and site
the
distance,
archaeological survey.
Yeah.
archaeological survey.
Yeah, talk about a strong arm on that.
Well, I wouldn't include site distance with that, though,
No.
because they already have an existing driveway, and the DOT's already approved that location, so, and they do meet the requirements as far as, I believe it's on the plans as minimum site distance for the speed. And
Okay.
with 17 lots, if you do a trip generation, it's probably 50, 60% of those
You're not
people
gonna-
that are living that are going to leave in the morning during the PM peak, or the AM peak. So
Yeah. Realistically,
50 to
very little
60% of 17 lots is
impact. 8 cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So are we assuming lead agency? It's not clear to me.
Well, we need to wait until the
Let's say-
SHPO has, so they sent us 2 separate letters.
rule with us getting lead agency. Otherwise, they could take it. That's fine.
Yeah, they did send us 2 letters, and their letter from, their primary letter essentially said that they are waiting to reserve their comment until they receive the feedback regarding the archaeological survey. They essentially have multiple divisions, and their historic resource division said, we're not going to comment until, we don't have an issue with the historic property, but we're going to reserve until we receive the Phase 1 A and B archaeological survey.
Okay.
What's
It's a
our-
blackmail or extortion to get them to do that.
I'm assuming we will be in a position to declare lead agency by the work session on the 23rd.
Okay.
But they do know, SHPO does know it is your intent to be lead agency.
All right. You want to move to the table? Jim?
I will move to table.
I'll second.
Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian,
Yes, no.
Burton,
Burton, aye.
Canower.
Now, aye.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have for you guys tonight.
All right. Everybody, thank you for your efforts. Thank you for coming. And we will adjourn.